faithfully upon Lord Krishna.
Text 2. Atmajaya sutagara pasudra vina bandhusu rajye cha vikale nityam viruddham mamatam jahau.
Maharaja Pariksit, as a result of
Screen. Yeah.
his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, was able to give up all and for his first children, his wife, his children, his palace, his animals like horses and animals, his pet, and his house.
Text 3 and 4. Papracha chemam ivartham ya mam prachatha sattama Krishna nubhava sravane sraddha dhano mahamanaha samstham vikyaya sanyasya karmatraivargikam chayat vasudeve bhagavati atma bhavam dradham gataha.
O great sages, the great soul Maharaja Pariksit, constantly wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna and death.
Hare Krishna. I can't hear the English translation really. Can anyone else hear it?
No, Jyoti Mataji, that's what I can't hear as well.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is it better?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Better.
yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry. O great sages, the great soul Maharaja Pariksit, constantly wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna, knowing well of his imminent death, renounced all sorts of fruitive activities, namely acts of religion, economic development, and sense gratification, and thus fixed himself firmly in his natural love for Krishna, and asked all these questions exactly as you are asking me.
Text 5. Rajovacha samichinam vacho brahman sarvagyasya tavanagha tamo vishriyate mahyam hare kathayata katham.
Maharaja Pariksit said, O learned Brahmana, you know everything because you are without material contamination. Therefore, whatever you have spoken to me appears perfectly right. Your speeches are gradually destroying the darkness of my ignorance, for you are narrating the topics of the Lord.
Text 6. Bhuya eva vivitsami bhagavan atma mayaya yathedam shrajte vishvam durvibhavyam adhishwarai.
I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, creates these phenomenal universes as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods.
Text 7. Yatha gopayati vibhur yatha samyachate punaha yam yam saktim upasritya puru sakti parah puman atmanam krityayan kridan karoti vikaroti cha.
Kindly describe how the Supreme Lord, who is all-powerful, engages his different energies and different expansions in maintaining and again winding up the phenomenal world in the sporting spirit of a player.
Text 8. Nyunam bhagavato brahman harer adbhuta karmanaha durvibhavyam iva bhati kavibhischapi cheshtitam.
O learned Brahmana, the transcendental activities of the Lord are all wonderful, and they appear inconceivable because even great endeavors by many learned scholars have still proved insufficient for understanding them.
Text 9. Yatha gunam stu prakriter yuga patkramaso apiva bibharti bhurti bhuri sastva eka kurvan karmani janmabhi.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, whether he alone acts with the modes of material nature or simultaneously expands in many forms or expands consecutively to direct the modes of nature.
Text 10. Vichikitsitam itan me ब्रवीतु भगवान् यथा शब्दे ब्रह्मणि निष्णाता परस्मिंश्च भवान् खलु.
Kindly clear up all these doubtful inquiries, because you are not only vastly learned in the Vedic literature and self-realized in transcendence, but are also a great devotee of the Lord and are therefore as good as the personality of Godhead.
Text 11. Suta uvacha iti upamantrito ragya gunanukathane hare rishikesham anusmratya prati vaktum prachakrame.
Suta Goswami said, when Sukadeva Goswami was thus requested by the king to describe the creative energy of the personality of Godhead, he then systematically remembered the master of the senses, Sri Krishna, and to reply properly he spoke thus.
Text 12. Shri Shuka uvacha nama parasmai purushasya bhuyase sat udbhava sthana nirodha lilaya grihita sakti tritayaya dehinam antarbhavyayanupalakshya vartamane.
Sukadeva Goswami said, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who, for the creation of the material world, accepts the three modes of nature. He is the complete whole residing within the body of everyone, and his ways are inconceivable.
Text 13. Bhuyo nama sadvrigna chide asatam asambhavyaya khila sattva murtaye pumsam punah paramahamsya asrame vyavasthitanam anumgraha suse.
I again offer my respectful obeisances unto the form of complete existence and transcendence, who is the liberator of the pious devotees from all distresses and the destroyer of the further advances in atheistic temperament of the non-devotee demons. For the transcendentalists who are situated in the topmost spiritual perfection, he grants their specific destinations.
Text 14. Namo namaste sva rasvaya sattvatam vidura kasthaya muhuku yoginam nirsa nirasta samyatisyas ena radhasa swadhamani brahmani ramsyate namaha.
Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him who is the associate of the members of the Yadu dynasty and who is always a problem for the non-devotees. He is the supreme enjoyer of both the material and spiritual worlds. Yet, he enjoys his own abode in the spiritual sky. There is no one equal to him because his transcendental opulence is immeasurable.
Text 15. Yat kirtanam yat smaranam yad iksanam yad vandanam yat shravanam yad arhanam lokasya satyo vidunoti kalmasam tasmai shubhadra svase namo namaha.
Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the all-auspicious Lord Sri Krishna, about whom glorification, remembrances, audience, prayers, hearing and worship can at once cleanse the effects of all sins of the performer.
Text 16. Vichakshana yach charano pasadanat Sangam vyudasyo bhavyato antar atmanaha vindanti hi brahmagatim gataklamas tasmai shubhadra sravase namo namaha.
Let me offer my respectful obeisances. It went up a bit, Mataji. Let me offer my thank you. Let me offer my respectful obeisances again and again unto the all-auspicious Lord Sri Krishna, the highly intellectual, simply by surrendering unto his lotus feet, are relieved of all attachments to present and future existences, and without difficulty progress towards spiritual existence.
Text 17. tapasvino danaparayasa vishvino manasvino mantra vidas sumangala Kshenam na vindanti vinayat arpanam tasmai shubhadra sravase namo namaha.
Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the all auspicious Lord Sri Krishna again and again, because the great learned sages, the great performers of charity, the great workers of distinction, the great philosophers and mystics, the great chanters of the Vedic hymns, and the great followers of Vedic principles cannot achieve any fruitful result without dedication of such great qualities to the service of the Lord.
Text 18. Kirata hunundra pulinda pulkasa abhira samsumbhayavana khasadaya ye anye cha papayad apasrayasraya Sudhyanti tasmai prabha vishnave namaha.
Kirata, Huna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulaksha, Avira, Shumbha, Yavana, members of the Khasi races, even others addicted to sinful acts, can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Due to his being the supreme power, I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Text 19. Sa ese atma mavatam adhisvaras Traimayo dharma maya stapo maya Gata vyalikair aja sankarabdibhir Vitarkya lingo bhagavan prasidatam.
He is the super soul and the supreme lord of all self-realized souls. He is the personification of the Vedas, religious scriptures, and austerities. He is worshipped by Lord Brahma and Shiva and all those who are transcendental to all pretensions. Being so revered with awe and veneration, may that supreme absolute be pleased with me.
Text 20. Shriyapatir prajapatir Dhiyam patir lokapatir dharapati Patir gatischandhaka vrishni satvatam Prasidatam me bhagavan satam pati.
May Lord Sri Krishna, who is the worshipable Lord of all devotees, the protector and glory of all the kings like Andhaka and Vrishni of the Yadu dynasty, the husband of all goddesses of fortune, the director of all sacrifices, and therefore the leader of all living entities, the controller of all intelligence, the proprietor of all the planets, spiritual and material, and the supreme incarnation on the earth, the supreme all in all, be merciful upon me.
Text 21. Yat anghri abhithyayana samadhi dhautyaya Dhiyanupasyanti hi tattvam atmanah Vadanti chaitat kavayo yatharucham Same mukando bhagavan prasidatam.
It is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who gives liberation. By thinking of his lotus feet at every second, following in the footsteps of authorities, the devotee in trance can see the absolute truth. The learned mental speculators, however, think of him according to their whims. May the Lord be pleased with me.
Text 22. Prachodita yena pura saraswati Vitanvatasya satim smritim hradi Svalakshana pradurabhut kila syata Same rasninam rasbha prasidatam.
May the Lord, who in the beginning of the creation amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma from within his heart and inspired him with full knowledge of creation and of his own self, and who appeared to be generated from the mouth of Brahma, be pleased with me.
Text 23. Bhutair mahabhirya ima puro bhibur निर्माया sete yad anmusu purusah bhungte gunan sodasatmaka so alankrista bhagavan vachamsi me.
May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enlivens the materially created bodies of the elements by lying down within the universe, and who, in his Purusha incarnation, causes the living being to be subjected to the 16 divisions of material modes, which are his generator, be pleased to decorate my statements.
Namastasmai bhagavate vasudevaya vedhase papurgyanam ayam saumya yanmukham bhuru bhasva savam.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Vasudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarian transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord.
Text 25. Itat ivatma bhurajan naradya viprachate veda garbho abhyadhat saksat yat aha harir atmanaha.
My dear king, Brahma, the firstborn, on being questioned by Narada, exactly apprised him on this subject as it had been directly spoken by the Lord to his own son, who was impregnated with Vedic knowledge from his very birth. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Partha Prabhu and Anushri Mataji. It was amazing. And
Thank you, bro.
thank you, everyone, for again bearing with me and giving me this opportunity to say a few words or repeat a few words what I've heard from others. I beg for your blessings. I can say something that is useful, and also beg for your forgiveness if I say anything incorrectly or without any realizations, as I'm just trying to repeat what I've heard from others. So today we are doing verses 21 and 22 of Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, fourth chapter. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So just recite 2, 421, discuss it, and then maybe we can go to 2, 422. Yadangri abhidhyana samadhi dhotaya dhyanu pashyanti hi tattvam atmana vadanti chaitat kaveyo yatharucham same mukando bhagavan prasidatam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Translation: it is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna who gives liberation. By thinking of his lotus feet at every second, following in the footsteps of authorities, the devotee in trance can see the absolute truth. By thinking of his lotus feet at every second, I think that's the important bit. By thinking of his lotus feet at every second, following the footsteps of authorities, a devotee in trance can see the absolute truth. Thinking of the absolute truth at every second. Sorry, I'm repeating it for myself. The learned mental speculators, however, thinking of him according to their whims, think of him according to their whims. May the Lord be pleased with me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It's a slightly longer purport, but it's very nice. I'm to quickly read it through and then we can discuss. The mystic yogis, after a strenuous effort to control the senses, may be situated in trance of yoga just to have a vision of the supersoul within everyone. But the pure devotee, simply by remembering the Lord's lotus feet at every second, at once becomes established in real trance, because by such realization his mind and intelligence are completely cleansed of the diseases of material enjoyment. The pure devotee thinks himself fallen into the ocean of birth and death, and incessantly prays to the Lord to lift him up. He only inspires to become a speck of transcendental dust at the lotus feet of the Lord. The pure devotee, by the grace of the Lord, absolutely loses all attraction for material enjoyment, and to keep free from contamination, he always thinks of the lotus feet of the Lord. King Kulashekar, a great devotee of the Lord, prayed, Krishna Tudiya Pada Pankaja Panjarantam Adyeva me Vishatu Manasa Rajahamsa Prana Prayana Samaya Kapha Vata Pitte Kantha Varodhan Vidau Smaranam Kutaste. My Lord Krishna, I pray that the swan of my mind may immediately sink down to the stems of the lotus feet of your Lordship and be locked in their network. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up with cough, how will it be possible to think of you? There is an intimate relationship between the swan and the lotus stem. So the comparison is very appropriate. Without becoming a swan or Paramhamsa, one cannot enter into the network of the lotus feet of the Lord. As stated in Brahma Samhita, the mental speculators, even by dint of learned scholarship, cannot even dream of the absolute truth by speculating over it for eternity. The Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to such mental speculators, and because they cannot enter into the network stem of the lotus feet of the Lord, all mental speculators differ in conclusions. And at the end, they make a useless compromise by saying, as many conclusions, as many ways, according to one's own inclination, yatharucham. But the Lord is not like a shopkeeper, trying to please all sorts of customers in the mental speculator exchange. The Lord is what He is, the absolute personality of Godhead, and He demands absolute surrender to Him only. Sarvdharman Parityaja. The pure devotee, however, by following the ways of previous acharyas or authorities, can see the Supreme Lord through the transparent medium of a bona fide spiritual master, Anu Pashyanti. The pure devotee never tries to see the Lord by mental speculation, but by following in the footsteps of Acharya, Mahachanoyen, Gatasapanta. Therefore, there's no difference of conclusions among the Vaishnava Acharyas regarding the Lord and the devotees. Lord Chaitanya asserts that the living entity, Jiva, is eternally the servitor of the Lord, and that he is simultaneously one with and different from the Lord. The tattva of Lord Chaitanya is shared by all four sampradayas of the Vaishnava school, all accepting eternal servitude to the Lord even after salvation. And there is no authorized Vaishnavacharya who may think of the Lord and himself as one. This humbleness of pure devotee, who is 100% engaged in his service, puts the devotee of the Lord in a trance by which to realize everything, because to the sincere devotee of the Lord reveals himself as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 10.10. The Lord, being the Lord of intelligence in everyone, even in the non-devotee, favors his devotee with proper intelligence so that automatically the pure devotee is enlightened with the factual truth about the Lord and his different energies. The Lord is revealed not by one's speculative power, but or by one's verbal jugglery over the absolute truth. Rather, he reveals himself to a devotee when he is fully satisfied by the devotee's service attitude. Sukhdev Goswami is not a mental speculator or compromiser of the theory of as many ways, as many conclusions. Rather, he prays to the Lord only, invoking his transcendental pleasure. That is the way of knowing the Lord. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatare Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna everyone. Yeah, what a beautiful verse. Just read the translation again by Srila Prabhupada. It is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who gives liberation by thinking of his lotus feet at every second. By thinking of his lotus feet at every second, following in the footsteps of authorities, the devotee in trance can see the absolute truth. The learned mental speculators, however, think of him according to their whims. May the Lord be pleased with me. Yeah, the idea is we need to try to think of his lotus feet at every second, which is so difficult. But if we were to do that, then we can see the absolute truth. And how do we go to the lotus feet of the Lord? Of course, through the lotus feet of the devotees of the Lord. And eventually to reach the lotus feet of Krishna, we need to first request his eternal consort, Srimati Radharani, to recommend us to go to Krishna and Srimati Radharani. We go via Lord Chaitanya, who is none other than Krishna and Srimati Radharani. In the mood of Srimati Radharani, to go to Lord Chaitanya, we go to Lord Nityananda and his lotus feet, Nitai Padakamala, which are as cooling as millions of moons. And then to reach Lord Nityananda's lotus feet, we have to serve and take the shelter of our Guru Parampara, and to take shelter of them, we have to um, serve the Vaishnavas and the senior devotees and the temple authorities who we have, and the whole congregation of Bhaktivedanta Manor and Soho Street and all the other temples. But the importance in this particular verse is lotus feet, is by thinking of lotus feet of the Lord at every second. We'll come to that. Maybe we can just take a step back and see where we are in Srimad Bhagavatam. So we all know that the 80,000 plus, I think 88,000 rishis sitting in Naimisharanya went through the whole sequence of verses where they described how the devotional service to the Lord is the most supreme, and they requested Srila Sutta Goswami to narrate the Srimad Bhagavatam, which he had heard when he was sitting in the assembly where Srila Sukdev Goswami was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. And so that's how the chapter starts, where Sutta Goswami starts describing, and then he first describes in verses 5 to 10 Parikshit Maharaj's questions, which were, just to recap, how does Lord create, maintain, destroy this universe? How does he enact primary and secondary creations? He asks questions about Lord's activities are wonderful and inconceivable. How does he expand himself? And then Sukdev Goswami, before he would say anything, he is starting to pray to the Lord. So like, when we do Mangalacharan, this is kind of his Mangalacharan. And he first, in a few verses, from I think 12 to 18, he pays obeisances to the Supreme Lord. And now in verses 19 to 23, he's praying to the Lord that please be pleased with me. May I say something that is of use, which will be in the next verse, where he will request that may something potent knowledge from you be generated. So that I think he talks about how he can say something in line with the parampara and inspire. And in this particular verse, he talks about the lotus feet of the Lord and remembering it for every second. So maybe we can spend some time, with your permission, to just maybe go through the pastimes that we have in the various leelas where there's importance given to the lotus feet of the Lord and Lord's lotus feet, just by remembering Lord's pastimes in the various incarnations. Maybe we can remember his lotus feet more, and that will give us the inspiration to remember him and his lotus feet at every second. We know, maybe we can go one by one, the various incarnations, and please everyone jump in. These are not all the various incarnations. Maybe we start with Lord Narayan. So where does Lord Narayan live? Please, you can unmute yourselves and we can have this more interactive. Where does he live? Please, someone unmute and say something. He's in Vaikuntha. And who is serving his lotus feet?
Lakshmi Devi.
Lakshmi ji.
Yeah, Mother Lakshmi is always serving the lotus feet. She is the goddess of fortune, right? But Mother is taking the position where she values the lotus feet so much that she's always serving Lord's lotus feet, right? If you're always serving Lord's lotus feet, hopefully it's a lot easier to remember. And then once Lord Narayan is resting and the four Kumaras come to his doorstep and they are blocked by who?
Jaya.
Vijay and Vijay.
Vijay. And then what happens? There's something from his lotus feet that does the magic where the Jaya Vijay experience it. What happens?
Tulsi.
Tulsi
Yeah.
leaves.
So they get the aroma of the tulsi leaves from the Lord's lotus feet. I don't know if you have noticed, both in Manor and Soho Street, and I'm just trying to look at the pictures here. They specially anoint Lord's lotus feet with the tulsi leaves. And if you see, it's beautiful, like, because and those and like it's said, like tulsi, when they put the tulsi in chandan and stick it, it's very, very auspicious. I mean, maybe if you get a chance and some pujari is being very generous to you, you should get some of the tulsi chandan, or if you go to Vrindavan, they also give sometimes. But then the aroma from there reached the nostrils of the four Kumaras, who were devotees, which is why they could reach Vaikuntha Lok, or the doors of Vaikuntha Lok. But they were still more, impersonalist in the approach. And as soon as they smell the tulsi from Lord's lotus feet, again, we need to try to remember, I need to try to remember the Lord's lotus feet. As soon as they get the aroma, they become pure devotees of the Lord. Maybe we move to another incarnation of the Lord, maybe Vamandev. So Vamandev's lotus feet, well, maybe someone can say something. How do we, in the whole story or pastime of Lord Vamandev, at least there are 2 or 3 incidents where it is his lotus feet are elaborately described in Srimad Bhagavatam. What are those parts of the pastime?
Then he took 3 steps of.
He took 3 steps with his little feet, but still he expanded himself, and he covered the whole
Both the
universe. Yeah. What else? As he was doing that, what happens with his little toenail or toe? As he was lifting his feet, he
Yeah.
cracks open. Yes, Mataji, please.
He penetrated the universe's cover, and so the water, started, dripping from there.
Yes.
Is that
So
correct?
correct. He just had the, the universe is in the shape of an egg. And at the top of it, as he was lifting his feet up, his toe just touches that and cracks it open. And the water from the spiritual world, which is in form of Mother Ganga, enters the universe. And then it is said that, it comes all the way, and then it comes to Bhuman, it goes through all the upper planetary systems, come to Bhumandal, which is where it comes on top of Jambu Dweep, which is, no, actually, Mount Sumeru Mountain, which is in the center of the Bhumandal, and then it gets divided into 4 streams. The one which comes towards Bharatvarsha, or the earthly planet, it is called. So it's called Mandakini till then, and then it's Alaknanda that comes on this side, and then ultimately slowly going through the various um, it's called khandas. It comes to the Bharat Khanda and comes to comes to the earthly planet. So it's the lotus feet of the Lord that penetrated the universe so that we could get Mother Ganga on this in this material world. Of course, there's the other story as how Maharaj Bhagirath had a role to play. There's one other pastime which happens with Lord Vamandev and his lotus feet. Then what happens afterwards?
So the third step,
The
Vaman
third step.
asked
Yeah.
Bali Maharaj, where shall I put it? And Bali Maharaj said, I just gave whatever I have, but the only head is remaining. So then Lord put his lotus feet on his head and he pushed him into, is it a Sutala Loka?
Sutalok, right. Yeah, absolutely. And then Lord becomes his doorman, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Bali Maharaj was so fortunate. I mean, we may also have the opportunity, but whether we have the right presence of mind and desire to hold Lord's lotus feet on our head and be ready to sacrifice everything for the Lord. It is so inspiring how Bali Maharaj did it and gave everything to the Lord. If the Lord were to come in front of me and says, I want everything of you, I don't know if I'll ever give. But I mean, he's such a amazing personality. He kept his word and he gave everything that he had, but his own self as well to the Lord. In true sense, Sarvdharman Parityaja, right? Like, he gave everything. To the Lord. So maybe we move on from Lord Vamandev, say to Lord Ram. So what are the stories that we know where Lord Ram's lotus feet is described, or ways we can remember his lotus feet? So maybe
He put
go
his
ahead.
lotus feet on the head of the stone, and
Yeah.
forgot the name. She came out.
Yes, Ahilya. So yeah, the pastime goes as the Gautam Muni.
Gautam.
Yeah, he used to live in the forest with Mother Ahilya, and once I think Lord Indra comes in the form of Gautam Muni and tries, or while he was out for bathing, and
He got in.
yeah, and then Gautam Muni comes back and he finds out that Indra was with Mother Ahilya and it wasn't her fault at all. But then Indra goes and then he curses both of them. He curses Indra to have, I think, 1,000 eyes or something, and he curses Mother Ahilya to become a stone. But then he realizes that it wasn't a mistake, and he blesses her that the Lord, she will get the touch of Lord's lotus feet.
Lotus feet.
And then with the touch, she obviously comes to life and goes back to her husband. There is the other story where someone gets to wash the lotus feet of Lord Ram.
That
Uha.
Yeah,
The
Guha,
doorman, I forgot
the
the name.
K-word. Yeah, he says, when you touch the stone, it became a woman. If you touch my boat, it may become a woman, and then what am I going to do? And of course, he wanted to, wash the lotus feet of the Lord. And then he took this opportunity when the Lord allowed him, and he washed. And then not only he drank the Charnamrit, but he gave it to all his family and everyone. And then he was ecstatic to have the opportunity to wash the lotus feet of the Lord, um, as well as be able to drink the Charnamrit, which is so important. I mean, we get Charnamrit as well every morning, every day in the temples. I wish I have the same zeal and enthusiasm when I'm honoring the Charnamrit, that this has come directly from the lotus feet of the Lord, and it's so with the same enthusiasm that Guha had as how he was serving. There's one other incident, at least I've heard about Lord Ram's lotus feet in Chitrakoot. Anyone? No, I'll say. So once I think the Lord was walking in front, and see the Mother Sita who sees that he's got lots of thorns in his feet. And then when he was sitting down, I think the mother or Lakshman, one of them said, "Oh, should we take the thorns out?" And the Lord said, "Well, the thorn has taken Sharnagati, is taken shelter of my lotus feet. How can I throw it away? And even though it is giving me trouble, I mean, Lord is so merciful, where He just wants to." Anyone who takes his Sharan, which stands for his feet, right? Sharnagati, who comes to his lotus feet, he does not, um, you know, he gives them shelter, which is so nice. And we know the example of other stories as well of Lord Ram when Vibhishan came. Maybe we will do Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then we'll move on because we need to do another verse. But maybe Krishna quickly. Any pastimes that come to people's mind? No? Krishna danced on the head of Kalia. Exactly. And I was reading like the wives, the Nagapatnis as they are called, they were singing that this was the shloka, I think 10:16:37. I think it says, Nanaka Prishtham Nacha Sarvabhaumam Na Parmeshtham Na Rasadhipatyam Na Yoga Siddhi Rapunar Bhavam Va Vanchanti Yatpad Raja Prapanna. Those who have attained the dust of your lotus feet never hanker for the kingship of heaven, limitless sovereignty, the position of Brahma, or rulership over the earth. They are not interested even in perfections of yoga or in liberation itself. And in fact, the gopis also sing in Gopi Geet about the the lotus feet of the Lord. In the interest of time, I'll just read the translation. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 31st chapter, 7th verse, so 10:31:7, and translation by Srila Prabhupada. Your lotus feet destroy the past sins of all embodied souls who surrender to them. So I'll read it again. Your lotus feet destroy the past sins of all embodied souls who surrender to them. Those feet follow after the cows in the pastures and are the eternal abode of the goddess of fortune. Since you once put those feet on the hoods of the great serpent Kalia, please place them upon our breasts and tear away the lust in our heart. And putting Lord's feet on the heart, if we quickly move to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who had the fortune to have Lord's lotus feet on his heart. Haridas Thakur. So when Haridas Thakur was about to leave this world, he has, of course, the Lord used to visit him every day, and he has the desire to see the Lord, to have the Lord's lotus face in front of his eyes as he's leaving, and his feet on his heart. And that's how Haridas Thakur left this world. Of course, he's Namacharya. He's such an advanced soul. Lord Chaitanya lifted him up and did his own final rites, and all the devotees then paid obeisances to Haridas Thakur's body there. But it's amazing how Lord's lotus feet has got so much uh, easily available, but we need to develop our affection, our somehow, as Srila Prabhupada was saying, or Maharaj Kulshekhar was saying, how we become like swan and engage a mind in the stems of the lotus flowers, in the same way, or engage a mind in Lord's lotus feet, basically. I know it's 2037. I will quickly read the translation and say a few words on the next verse, and then we will finish. I'm so sorry, I'm running over. So the next verse is 22. I will share my screen. So with your permission, I'm going to skip the verse and just read the translation, and we can say a few things. This is verse 22, translation by Srila Prabhupada. May the Lord, who in the beginning of the creation amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma from within his heart and inspired him with full knowledge of creation and of his own self, and who appeared to be generated from the mouth of Brahma, be pleased with me. So clearly, Sukadev Goswami is praying that may the Lord be pleased with him, and he's saying like how Lord Brahma was inspired from within. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also, Sarvasya chaham hidasannavishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarve raham veda vedyo vedanta krita veda vidvehi chaham. So essentially, he is the one who gives us remembrance. He is the one who gives us forgetfulness. He is the one who is the knower of the Vedas. And there are so many incidences in the scriptures where someone may be illiterate, but they have the realization, and they have the essence of the scriptures in their heart already, and they're living it. And the one incident which comes to my mind is when Lord Chaitanya went to South India, and there was one Brahmana who was sitting there, and he was illiterate, but he was holding Bhagavad Gita, and tears were flowing through his eyes. But everyone around him was making fun of him, that he's illiterate. He's obviously he was probably holding the Bhagavad Gita upside down. And Lord Chaitanya felt that he's quite sincere. So he goes to him and asks him, can you explain why you're reading Bhagavad Gita and holding it upside down, and tears are flowing through your eyes? He says, my guru asked me that I have to read Bhagavad Gita every day, but I'm illiterate and I cannot read it. But just by the thought of how Krishna becomes the servant of Arjuna as or the chariot driver of Arjuna, makes me feel like how the Lord becomes Bhavgrahi Janardana, like he's willing to be the servant of his devotees. I know it's 2041. I'm going to pause there. Please, again, I request you to forgive my mistakes. Of course, I'm just trying to repeat what I've heard, but I have no realizations or knowledge, so please forgive them. If there are any comments or corrections, please unmute and you can say them. If not, thank you so much. Vanchakalpatarupyascha kripa sindhudevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Okay. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. Hare
Very
Krishna.
good class. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. It was wonderful class. Very interesting.